Saleema, so much for celebrating the 22nd Happiness Happens Month with us. We met actually through a Facebook group, and we happened to be in the same part of the country, and we got to meet up for a meal. So we got to meet in person and trade books. We'd both written books in the recent time frame, so we've got some photos of that. So we've stayed friends, and it's just a great way of how social media works. But you were super, super successful, and successful is one of the 31 types of happiness. So I asked you here today to share a story of a time that you felt successful about something. It doesn't have to be huge or big. It could be anything you want it to be, because you have some biggies that you could tell, but you may have something else that's smaller that was on the staircase to that led you there. Since I don't know the story you're sharing. So I asked you to share a story of, like I said, when you felt successful and how it also helped make you feel happy.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say the story that comes to mind is how I got started with my current startup, Ripple Impact. It's interesting because I always wanted to help entrepreneurs throughout my career, especially since the early days, since I became an entrepreneur myself. Let's say by accident, but it was unplanned, and it happened during moments of crises, during the 2009 economic crisis, when I couldn't find a job and I started volunteering and trying to provide value, and then, living in Brazil, living in Italy, and starting my own businesses. And there's lots of stories of that in my book, so I don't need to go into detail on those. But really, the journey I took becoming an entrepreneur, I then started helping other people unleash the entrepreneur within them. However, it was really hard to really help them, other than, giving them some mentorship and doing talks and panels and keynotes and stuff. And I was like, okay, I can inspire people. I can give them some advice. And I started to coach people. And for a few years, I was coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs. And what I found was they really needed like hands-on help. They needed practical, sort of like roll up the sleeves, get into the trenches help. And it was only in the beginning of the pandemic, when all my speaking engagements, workshops, all the work I was doing got canceled or moved virtually, that
but I do want to interject. You also did get a TED Talk around that window, so that's a pretty nice success story you had during that, but during that window too. So that was great.
Yeah, the TED Talk. I would say also the crowdfunding campaign we did for my book, For Innovation Starts With I. It did really well. We raised over $50,000 in pre-orders and sponsors, and it did super, super well. But yeah, it was probably just, taking what I could do. And then actually it was, one of my team members back then, it was actually me and my assistant at the time. And she was like, Saleema, like, people, it's not just the design thinking and the innovation workshops and all of that people see you can do really uniquely. It's the advice you give, but it's also who you are and how you're marketing yourself, and like the creative assets, the social media, the way that you present yourself, the way that you've built a platform. That's what people want. And I was really blind to that. I didn't really see that as what I thought people liked me for, or like saw as my strengths. And it was only after interviewing several of my colleagues, and my assistant interviewing several of my colleagues, that we came to discover that it was really the advice, the coaching entrepreneurs, plus actually helping them by rolling our sleeves up, getting into the trenches, being their designers, being their executors, being their marketers. And when we tested that through launching a beta accelerator, a business accelerator under Ripple Impact in our very early days, and it was really, really successful. We helped several entrepreneurs become extremely successful in growing their revenue, their business, their teams, their audience, building a really professional brand for them, that we saw that, we could combine that in a really unique way. And that's continued to today, where we're serving several entrepreneurs, helping several authors as well. And I'd say that's one of the biggest successes I've had, is growing my team from 2 to over 40 in just 2 years.
Well, and I love that you're defining success by helping others find success, because oftentimes I think people think they don't get that success can be a team sport. we think success is, there's, first place, second and third. And, probably if I'm second or third, I'm probably also happy in the success race, but it really is a team sport. And when we can really help each other. And in fact, when I was asking you to do a story, I was really torn between a couple of ways to go, a couple of types of happiness I know that you seem to connect to. And one of them was helping other people, and things like that. So thank you for sharing that, you're part of your idea of success is helping others be successful. And you've got 40 team members now that you're helping career-wise find success. So there's a lot of that that I love. So thank you for sharing that. So the next question, during all this fun, you alluded to it, that you did a crowdfunding campaign for your book that you can show, because I'm traveling and don't have my copy of your book with me. What would be something that if, one of our listeners wants to read your book, what are they going to walk away from that's going to make them feel a little happy?
Yeah. Probably happy. I would say probably that
Or successful.
Successful. I would say, yeah, like they'll have the tools they need and a different way of thinking, that they're not alone, and that they can leverage the supportive community through collaboration, through empathy, through authenticity, to build their own community, but also leverage their community to grow personally. I think that's, and as they grow personally, that gets reflected in their business. I don't think business growth is just about numbers and sales and growing revenue. I think it really it starts with igniting yourselves at the personal level and doing that work. And I think for me, self-awareness really shifted because it wasn't just knowing myself, it was really accepting and understanding how other people saw me. And when I developed that self-awareness, it was then able to be trickled out into my business. And yeah.
Yeah, I love, and so your book is Innovation Starts with I. Again, you want to show it again, that way people can see it. And then our final question. So yeah, great read. It's even won awards. So it's a good read, especially if you're an entrepreneur. So final question. In my book, Practical Happiness, that just came out this year, one of the principles, the 4 principles, is happiness is personal. And I think we live in this world where there's just a lot of competitive happiness. There's a lot of groupthink happiness. And we really forget that our happiness is personal to us. So that may mean our significant other, our friends, our family may or may not find what we find, happy. Like maybe I want to put ketchup on my ice cream because that makes me happy. And other people are looking at me like I'm weird, but if it makes me happy, it's still okay, because it's, it's about me. And I do not eat ketchup on my ice cream, by the way. I just came up with that visual. I don't know why. Sometimes I get creative. Anyway, what is one of your happiness's personals?
What is one of my happiness? What?
Your happiness is personal. What's something that just makes you personally happy that may or may not make anybody else happy? I mean, it might, but it might not.
Yeah, I would have to say, to be very honest, really good food. I love new food experiences. We've had the chance to share some of that together, and really just sharing food, really innovative food, stuff that's really made with a lot of love, but in a creative way that's different, something that would be easy to just make at home, and sharing that with other people. And I think that is a really bonding experience, and I absolutely love, it's a very social experience for me, and I absolutely love it. Makes me smile.
Oh, so you're open to trying new restaurants, is what that sounds like.
Totally, yeah.
If you need a new restaurant person, call you. I love that. And I think food is this common bonder of happiness. And and I even think when you're cooking it, the energy you're putting into it can taste different because it's your recipe versus when somebody else tries to replicate your recipe. Like I have a friend, she's given me a recipe for pumpkin squares 1 million times. And I've tweaked the recipe and made it kind of my own, and mine tastes good, but to me, hers still tastes better. And I'm just sure it's the energy because it's a recipe handed down through her family. And like I said, I love her pumpkin squares every year. And Kari, if you're listening, that's what I'm talking about. And so I love those every year. Like I said, so I think food is this lovely, lovely experience. So on that note, we want to challenge everybody to go try some new food today or this week. Try something different, and you'll be replicating Saleema's happiness is personal. So thank you for being with us for Happiness Happens Month. And I can't wait till we can talk in person.
Me too. Thank you so much for interviewing me. I'm excited, and thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.